So the invitations went out. Mr. Conacher was available in this hour. Ms. Turnbull and Mr. Stedman were available in the second hour, and that's how it is difficult sometimes to manage and manipulate the way witnesses are going to appear, but this is the way it's
something everyone can enjoy.
And just a reminder, again, to all witnesses, or to all parties, that we need that witness list by today as well if you haven't sent it in. Okay? So we're going to start. Mr. Conacher, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair and Committee, for the invitation and opportunity to testify on the Conflict of Interest Act, one of Canada's most important laws for ensuring democratic good government. I will make my presentation today mainly in English. Il faut que je pratique mon français beaucoup et il y a beaucoup de termes techniques.
I need to practice my French, and it's quite a technical topic.
I present mainly in English, but I welcome your questions in either language. Democracy Watch is Canada's leading democratic reform, government accountability, government ethics advocacy organization. We've been operating since 1993, 32 years this week, actually. And we have 41,000 supporters across the country. I'm also here representing the Government Ethics Coalition, a coalition of citizen groups pushing for ethics reforms. It's great that the committee is holding open hearings, unlike the secretive behind closed door hearings that another House committee held in 2022 to review the MP Ethics Code. Conservative MPs and Bloc MPs, you're asking some good questions, better questions about the Act than have been asked by MPs at this committee in the past 20 years. So it's great to see that. But you are still missing some key loopholes and flaws and not cutting through the obscurities and misleading haze about the Act that the Ethics Commissioner Conrad von Finkenstein creates whenever he talks about the Act. Hopefully, Liberal MPs on this committee, you will set aside your talking points and prepared questions that the Cabinet and Research Bureau have prepared for you and actually listen and think about the seriously unethical, undemocratic, and bad government actions that are currently legal under the Conflict of Interest Act, and why long overdue changes need to be made to ensure democratic good government now and into the future. The Conflict of Interest Act and the related MP Code and Senate Ethics Code and the codes that apply to federal government employees are among the most important laws and codes for ensuring democratic good government. Unfortunately, and Democracy Watch's written submission to the committee will provide all of the details, section by section, the Conflict of Interest Act is a sad joke. That because of huge loopholes in the law, doesn't apply to 99% of the decisions and actions of the most powerful people in the government. It really should be called, because of these loopholes, the Conflict of Interest Act really should be called the almost impossible to be in a Conflict of Interest Act. The Conflict of Interest Act, which covers cabinet ministers, their staff, and top government officials, does not prevent, prohibit, or penalize conflicts of interest. So it's truly Orwellian. In fact, the Act is so full of loopholes that allow powerful politicians and public officials in the federal government to have secret investments, to secretly participate in decisions when they have a clear financial conflict of interest, and to secretly profit financially from their decisions. The Act is weaker than the rules for senators and federal government employees, and as weak as the rules for backbench MPs, which makes no sense at all. It is simply perverse that the most powerful politicians and office holders in Canada's federal government have much weaker ethics requirements and standards than the least powerful public servants. If you support the Conflict of Interest Act in its current form, and if you support the weak and in some cases dangerous proposals for amendments that the Ethics Commissioner von Finkenstein has put forward, if you support the Act in its current form or with these weak amendments, you support protecting private interests, you support politicians and public officials profiting financially from their decisions, and you support unethical and corrupt policymaking, all of which violates the public interest clearly. As the Globe and Mail put it in an editorial in June, a plan to make changes to make the Conflict of Interest Act actually effective is missing in action, MIA. The Conservatives made some promises in their election platform, but they were a bit vague and focused pretty much only on the Prime Minister's role and position. The Liberals, Bloc and NDP made no promises. The Globe's editorial also criticized the Ethics Commissioner's very limited recommendations in his annual report, which you've heard about from him, And in some cases, those recommendations, again, would weaken the law. Hopefully, instead of keeping this sad joke of a law that has done very little to clean up federal politics in the past 20 years, almost, all federal parties will work together and go beyond the Ethics Commissioner's mostly bad recommendations to finally close all the loopholes in all federal political ethics laws and codes and strengthen enforcement and penalties so politicians and their staff and top government officials are no longer allowed to make unethical, self-interested decisions or secretly profit from their decisions. I will now provide a quick summary of the dirty dozen loopholes in the Act, and similar loopholes exist in the MP Ethics Code and Senate Ethics Code, along with enforcement flaws. Again, Democracy Watch's written submission will provide all the details, including a link to my 900-page plus PhD thesis, which analyzed the Act and codes and other federal democracy laws and recommended key changes, in case you want even more details. I welcome your questions about anything concerning effective government ethics standards and enforcement after I briefly list the loopholes in enforcement. Rule requiring honesty.
I'm sorry, Mr. Conacher, like we have 5 minutes, so we're over that time. I'm going to suggest if you wanted to in your brief, or if it comes up in questioning, you can refer to that, but I'm going to have to stop you there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
As a European, I am a European,
actually.
Yeah.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
oh.
I'm a citizen. Yeah. So there you
welcome.
go.
Welcome.
Speaking as a European.
WTF.
Here, here.
How many kids did you molest Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
And as the most European of the non-European countries.
Being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you
What
sought
possible
to avoid.
conflict would you have? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Confidence.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
All right, gang, thank you all very much for watching. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Smash that subscribe. We're trying to grow this thing. Canadian Federal Politics. Get yours right here. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.
Canadians.